Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this recap, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Now, let's jump into the full story. No skips, just the whole plot in minutes. In the vast, silent stretches of the cosmos, where stars drift like scattered grains of salt in an endless ocean of black, the mining spaceship Borealis glided steadily. It was a vessel built for endurance, for labor, for the unyielding march of industry. Inside it, rows of miners slept peacefully in cryogenic stasis, encased in frost-covered pods, each one a dreamless capsule, preserving human life on its 4-year voyage to a distant mining colony. Among these miners was Andy, an average man with calloused hands and a tired soul, frozen in time with the rest of the crew. They were unaware of what was about to transpire, unaware that their mission, meticulously planned and calculated to the decimal, was about to be torn apart by the chaos of space. Far beyond the ship's radar, a rogue asteroid spun into an unnatural trajectory, pulled by an unknown gravitational force. Without warning, it veered from its original course and began a deadly dance toward the Borealis. The collision was sudden, catastrophic, and unrelenting. The asteroid struck the vessel with a force that shattered steel and ignited alarm systems throughout its halls. Inside the ship's core, the AI system known as Leonard lit up, its synthetic voice cutting through the chaos. Impact detected. Initiating emergency protocol. Andy's cryopod hissed open violently. His eyelids fluttered. Cold air rushed into his lungs. Leonard's voice, calm but insistent, urged him to consciousness. Andy, you need to stay calm. This is an emergency. Follow all safety procedures immediately. The ship was breaking apart. Fire burst from ruptured panels. Debris spiraled in zero gravity. Automated arms scrambled to suit Andy up, locking his helmet, sealing his gloves, pumping oxygen into his reserves. Outside the pod bay, other cryopods ejected into space, propelled by emergency launchers toward the nearest planet. Andy's heart pounded. What's happening? Eject sequence initiated. Planetary descent in progress, Leonard answered. Brace for impact. As Andy's pod shot out of the collapsing Borealis, he could see through the small window the fiery wreck the ship had become. The rest of the crew's pods were scattered in all directions. Some burned up as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Others shattered upon hitting the rocky terrain. His own pod spiraled down too fast. Flames licked its sides. Just as it was about to smash into a jagged hill, Leonard made a split-second maneuver, rotating the pod mid-air to soften the landing. The crash was brutal. The impact knocked Andy unconscious. A vivid memory flickered in the darkness. His wife, his son, laughing by a stream. The image jolted him awake. He sat up with a gasp, coughing from the acrid smell of scorched metal. The pod was a wreck. Outside, the sky was a churning mass of storm clouds over a jagged mountain range. A low rumble vibrated through the ground beneath him. He tried to contact the ship. Nothing. Static. Then the ground shook again. Leonard's voice returned, slightly distorted. You need to exit the pod immediately. Seismic activity detected. Andy fumbled with the release. The pod was jammed. The emergency kit didn't contain a flare gun. He was a lower-rank miner, and it seemed his life was statistically less valuable. Desperate, he grabbed a fire extinguisher and slammed it against the pod's glass until it cracked. The sudden motion destabilized the pod, causing it to flip. Shards of glass ripped into his suit. Your suit has been compromised, Leonard warned. You must seal it now. The atmosphere is toxic. Andy scrambled for the sealant spray and covered the tear just in time. But Leonard's next words sent a jolt of panic down his spine. There is fire in the rear compartment. Evacuate. Andy dug through the wreckage, clutching the only item he could salvage, his son's small toy, miraculously intact. With a final push, he escaped just as flames consumed what was left of the pod. Out in the open, he saw the flaming hulk of the Borealis plummeting from the sky. The ship disintegrated on impact, and a shockwave thundered across the valley, slamming Andy off his feet. Gasping and battered, he stood and asked Leonard, "Where are we?" "We are in an unmapped star system. This planet was not our destination. In the distance, Andy saw a flicker of light. With no other option, he headed toward it, hoping for survivors. On the way, he stumbled upon another cryopod, half buried in debris. Inside was a body, lifeless, bloodied. He recoiled but forced himself to extract the oxygen tank. It was crushed, useless. As he moved on, he didn't notice the bloody claw marks inside the pod behind him, silent evidence that something else was on this planet. Finally, he reached the light source and found Dwayne, a communication technician. Overjoyed, Dwayne hugged him. "You're alive," Dwayne said, almost tearful. "I thought I was the only one." Dwayne explained that the company had cut through an asteroid belt to save fuel. That shortcut had doomed them. Still, Dwayne had sent a distress signal. 8 months to reach Earth, then 2 more years for the rescue ship. He proposed they head south, toward what remained of the ship. But as he encouraged Andy, clapping on the shoulder, Andy stumbled backward and unplugged a critical wire by mistake. He turned to fix it. Then, without warning, something yanked Dwayne into the darkness. "Dwayne," Andy called out. Only silence responded. In shock, Andy completed the transmission. Then, alone, he took Dwayne's gun and pressed forward. Soon, a voice crackled through his radio. A woman, Naomi, was trapped in her pod. Her legs were pinned, but she had oxygen. Leonard advised against going. Andy's own supply was dwindling, and the terrain ahead was deadly. But Naomi pleaded. Andy chose humanity over survival and changed direction. Along the way, he began speaking with Naomi. Her calm voice steadied him. She joked that Leonard was a budget model AI. Andy laughed for the first time. As night fell, shadows crept in. Andy thought he saw movement. Leonard's scans were inconclusive. Webs appeared. Then came the growling. Leonard pinged multiple life forms, trackers from dead crew members. What does that mean? Andy asked. But then he saw them. Monstrous, spider-like creatures with glistening fangs and segmented tails. He fired a flare gun. Light revealed the horrors, scorpion-tailed spiders racing toward him. He ran. The ground gave way. He fell. The monster lunged but couldn't follow. Below, barely alive, Andy radioed Naomi. The trackers were embedded in the creatures' stomachs. They had eaten the crew. His suit leaked oxygen. He patched it. Then, incredibly, Dwayne's voice returned. He was fighting the spiders. Naomi guided Andy through the fog, helping him find Dwayne. But it was too late. A spider attacked, and Andy could only listen as Dwayne was devoured. Naomi lit up nearby pods to distract the creatures. Andy fled into one and begged her to turn the lights off. Instead, she activated all of them, drawing the spiders away. Still, one chased him. He stumbled into a fog bank. Naomi remained trapped, panicking. Andy sang a lullaby he used to sing to his son. She calmed. Then came the fireflies, glowing purple, beautiful, until they turned red and attacked, trying to break Andy's helmet. He fled again. Maybe the spiders are scared of them, Naomi theorized. Before he could reply, the ground opened, and a gigantic creature swallowed him whole. Inside, Andy saw walls of pulsating flesh. He called Leonard, who shocked his heart with his suit defibrillator. The creature gagged and vomited him out. Andy escaped into a cave filled with fireflies. They chased him through until he emerged. With seconds of oxygen left, he reached Naomi. She connected him to her supply. Naomi is trapped, her leg pinned under wreckage inside a malfunctioning survival pod. Panic might have overtaken many, but Andy, with trembling hands and fierce determination, refuses to give up on her. Though he lacks the strength to lift the debris directly, he uses his safety equipment to improvise a lever. It's a desperate move, but one rooted in survival instinct and hope. With a groan of strained metal, his efforts finally pay off. Naomi is freed, her face contorting with pain, but when she tries standing, she confirms her leg isn't broken. Bruised and wounded, yes, but miraculously still functional. As they step outside the ruined pod, the hostile terrain greets them, a harsh, unfamiliar world filled with danger. Without hesitation, Andy wraps a strip of scavenged metal around Naomi's leg, Before they can move far, their moment is interrupted. A sound, faint at first, grows into a chorus of clicking and skittering. A swarm of giant alien spiders emerges from the shadows, forcing them to flee. As they run, Naomi's AI assistant, MI, quickly injects her with morphine, dulling the pain enough for her to keep going. But their sprint is cut short. They fall, tumbling to the ground, vulnerable. A monstrous spider looms above them, its pincers poised to strike. In a flash of instinct, Naomi fires her flare gun. The glowing projectile arcs into the distance, catching the attention of the spider horde. Like moths to flame, the creatures abandon the duo and chase the light. Seeing an opening, Andy and Naomi rush toward the fractured remains of the Borealis, their only hope of refuge. They scramble aboard and try to seal the door, but the control system resists. Naomi, gritting her teeth, struggles with the controls. At the final moment, just as one of the spiders lunges, the door slams shut, slicing the creature in half with a sickening crunch. But safety is still a distant dream. The remaining creatures begin battering the ship's entrance, a chilling reminder that danger still lingers. Andy and Naomi retreat deeper into the corridors, their way lit only by the flickering emergency lights, a sign the backup generator is still online. Inside the ship's eerie silence, Naomi takes the lead. She knows this place well. Andy, on the other hand, is disoriented. His prior time on the Borealis was brief and mostly spent in cryosleep. Everything around him is alien and overwhelming. After winding through dim corridors, they discover a sealed deck with a habitable environment, complete with food, water, and enough supplies to survive until help arrives. But just as they start to breathe easier, a crimson trail of blood on the floor halts them in their tracks. Following the trail, they uncover a grisly scene. A spider is inside the ship. They hide and watch in horror as it deposits an egg, wrapping it with thick cobwebs and embedding a human corpse within. Andy gags, barely holding back vomit. The spider seems unaware of their presence and leaves the room, but the danger isn't over. Another spider ambushes them from behind, forcing them to retreat in a panic. They lock themselves in a chamber, thinking they're safe, until Naomi's eyes widen in alarm. They're in an airlock. Realizing the mistake, Andy tries desperately to pry open the door with a metal bar, but it won't budge. Resigned to their fate, they remove their helmets and share a rare moment of vulnerability. Andy shows Naomi a recording of his wife and young son, their laughter echoing from the screen. He shares his guilt over surviving the car crash that claimed their lives, a tragedy that occurred on his birthday. He admits he's carried that guilt every day since, convinced he should have been the one who died. Naomi listens silently, then softly responds. She tells him his decision to save her proves his life still has purpose. She confesses that she had long lost faith in people, but he's restored some of it. They share a quiet hug, a rare flicker of hope in the darkness. Then Naomi notices something strange, glowing fireflies clinging to Andy's suit. Their tender moment is cut short. The relentless spider finally breaks through the lock. Thinking fast, Naomi grabs the fireflies and throws them at the creature. The light stuns it, forcing it to recoil. They flee, barely managing to avoid falling into the cargo bay below. But the spider isn't done. It dives after them, dragging them down into the bay. As it charges again, Andy grabs Naomi's sealant spray and throws at the beast. The spider bites into the can, and it explodes, leaving it disoriented. This buys them precious seconds to escape, and he knows they must end this. He suggests using a mining drill to kill the spider once and for all. Naomi nods and, with a deep breath, runs to create a diversion. Meanwhile, Andy searches for a way to crush the spider and finds it. If he can lure the spider under a suspended pod, he can drop it directly onto the creature. Leonard, his AI, tells him the only operational pod is 2 levels above. Andy climbs rapidly as Naomi distracts the spider with shouts and taunting. To help her evade the spider's deadly eyesight, Andy shuts off all ship lights. The creature loses sight of Naomi, giving her a chance to strap emergency lights to her body, turning herself into a moving beacon. The spider locks onto her and gives chase. Up above, Andy works on manually ejecting the pod. Leonard informs him that it shut down power to prioritize Naomi's safety, and restoring it will take 15 minutes, too long. So Andy makes a choice. He overrides the system and begins charging the pod using his own suit. Leonard warns him. Doing so will fry its own circuits and possibly kill Andy too. But Leonard accepts its fate. If this is the end, it says, then let's make it worth it. The moment arrives. The spider, distracted by Naomi's glowing suit, steps directly under the pod. Andy releases it. As the pod crashes down, Andy is flooded with a final memory of the accident that changed his life. The impact is devastating. The spider is obliterated, and Andy is knocked unconscious. Naomi rushes to his side, sobbing, fearing the worst. But then, a breath. Andy stirs. He's alive. They embrace, exhausted and teary-eyed. Above them, the alien sky begins to brighten. A sunrise, beautiful and strange, breaks over the horizon. Then a voice crackles to life. Leonard is back. It has somehow rebooted and undergone an upgrade. Andy smiles in disbelief. Leonard begins to play a soft, melodic song. Hand in hand, Andy and Naomi sit quietly, looking ahead at the unknown future. They now face nearly 2 years of waiting. Their distress call might have reached Earth, or it might not have. And even if it did, the company responsible for this mission is known to prioritize profits over people. Will they send help for just 2 survivors on a forgotten planet? That question, my friends, remains unanswered. But one thing's for certain. Andy and Naomi will make the most of every moment. Maybe, just maybe, something more than friendship will grow in the time they have left. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this emotional sci-fi survival story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Got a movie or series you'd like us to cover? Drop your requests in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay human.